Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Chris with the Virtual Voice again, and I'm here once again with Fernanda. Fernanda, how's it going?
Hey Chris, really good. And you?
I'm doing great. Fernanda's wearing our Elevation Construction shirt, which is
Yeah.
excellent. I'm not. I'm just wearing a white shirt today, so
Oh, I
I
thought it
ran out
was
of
the
shirts.
shirt.
Well, it's
Yeah.
the same polo. It's the sample they gave us without the logo on it. So, um,
Oh,
just kind of like, being open to our audience. I haven't done laundry yet, so I don't have any clean Elevation shirts.
yeah, you're not wearing the uniform today, Chris.
I'm not. I'm out of uniform, so you can write me up. How's that?
That's good,
Reprimand me.
yeah.
All right, cool. So today we're doing part two of building confidence as a leader. We found, as Fernanda was doing some research on this, just a lot of information to help out with this. So we felt like two episodes were more appropriate than to try to cram everything into one. But I feel like the first one was really good and insightful. A lot of great things came out of that. As you and I were talking about it, it kind of helped us think about some things that maybe we could be doing better, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
anyway, so let's start with part two.
Okay, so yeah, let's go to the first thing. So I know last week we went over some challenges and why building confidence is important. So today we're going to go over this how can leaders identify their strengths to build confidence. So yeah, the first thing is they can reflect on past successes. And I think this is pretty important. Just one way for leaders to identify their strengths is by reflecting on good things that they did in the past, just like, for example, projects, situations that went great. So leaders can identify the skills and qualities that contribute contribute to that success, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, help this can help them build confidence in the future. So yeah, I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
really good also to handle challenges, just identify what are your strengths, what are the qualities that you're best in. So
Right. Yeah. So, we as a company, our team, we follow Jocko pretty closely.
yeah.
Do some training with his stuff, and I don't think everyone on our team's read the book. I've read it a couple times, but we certainly train on it. And this is something that he calls detaching. And it's easy as a business owner. It doesn't. You don't have to be a business owner. You could be anybody on the team. You just get so wrapped up in the weeds and the day to day, and you kind of lose sight on, like what we're talking about here, what you've accomplished so far. And so I find, and this, when you were working with me as my executive assistant, I'm like,
Yeah.
Fernanda, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed today. So, that was just a key indicator, like, okay, it's time to stop what we're doing. Let's take a step back, kind of understand what we're facing right now, what's going on, what's kind of bringing this overwhelming feeling upon us. Um, and a lot of times it's like, okay, I see the situation right now and it's not as big as I thought. We've handled similar things in the past, or even things that are more stressful or harder in the past. We overcame that. And this is just another thing, right? And it helps give us a different perspective as we detach, gain that perspective, and then we're ready to get back into the fight again. Um, so for me, there's a lot of times where I feel, I can feel overwhelmed. I can feel like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like we've progressed very far over the last month or so. And then I could take a step back and look like, oh my gosh, it was 3 years ago where it was me, a computer, and a card table, and that was my team, right?
Yeah.
And 3 years later, wow, look where we are now. Where we were last year, where were we 6 months ago? And getting that fresh perspective helps build that confidence. Like, you know what? We've gone a far way over the last 3 years, and we're going to do a lot more. Like, so it certainly, like for me, gives me the confidence that, okay, we're going in the right direction here. We're not slowly withering away. We're actually building here, and it's hard. It's not easy, but looking back at what we've accomplished over the last few years, what we're doing now is totally doable. and we can get it done. We have the confidence in ourselves and in the team to get it done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something important here is just like what you mentioned. Sometimes we lose sight on what things we've accomplished because
Mhm.
also if we don't have confidence, we're just focusing on the bad things that we're doing, like
Right.
all these issues are happening, like all these things I did bad, but you don't see the positive side of it. You don't see all the
Mhm.
great things that you accomplished. So you're not going to get more confident. You are not going to get more confidence in you
Mhm. Mhm.
if you're just focusing on the bad things that you're doing.
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah.
And this, so this kind of goes to, tracking things, tracking your habits, or like for me, my journaling that I do every morning. I will open up my journal and I'll look at what I wrote a year ago or 2 years ago. And I'll read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was crying about this ridiculous thing. 2 years
Yeah.
later, I'm like, it was so small. Um, but sometimes I'll read it. I'm like, gosh, uh, I overcame that, whatever it is, and what I'm going through right now is just so much easier than that. So, chill out, relax. We got this, right? So I think recording, either through a journal, your habits, whatever it might be, will help you reflect back on those hard times.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Or also social media, just like right
Yep.
now, it's really common, photos, videos. I know that's
Hmm.
what we're doing with your profile, but just
Yeah.
having something and looking back and saying, wow, it's just also your mindset or the way that you talk. It's just like it
Hmm.
changes. And you
Yep.
can see that you're growing from those mistakes and you're growing from those successes also.
Hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, let's go to the next one. So, the second one is ask for feedback from others. And I know this is difficult because sometimes we can feel really vulnerable to ask another person, like, hey, it's just, can you give me some feedback on this side? Or to just like, I don't know, it's different when you ask like on the work that you're doing or at the
Hmm.
job than asking like, hey, what's wrong with me? Just like let me know some feedback about myself. I think
Hmm.
that's really vulnerable. So yeah, I don't know, leaders can also ask for feedback from team members, mentors, to help them identify their strengths. So yeah, it's just by asking others what they see as the leader's strengths, the leader can gain a new perspective and uncover strengths they may not have realized that they had. And I think that's very common also. That's just like, I know sometimes you mentioned like, Fernanda, you're really good at, I don't know, just like at writing emails or just
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
for public relationships. I was like, yeah, I didn't know that. I think I was like, yeah, I'm good, but I'm not that good at it, but I like
Hmm.
it. But it's just like you identified that strength in me, and I
Hmm.
didn't know that I had it. So I think
Yeah.
that's really good. Just asking other people like,
Yeah.
what do you see in me?
Yeah. And that's perfect because I hate writing those emails. So I'm like, all right, Fernanda's got this one now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, getting feedback is extremely important. I'll take feedback from it. I'll listen to anyone with feedback, but I'll also consider who's providing
Mm,
that feedback, right? So
yeah.
if it's an angry customer who's just negative about everything, I'll listen to what they have to say, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see where they're coming from on that. Or just sometimes like, they're just throwing a fit right now, so just listening to them. That's all they want. But as a leader and as a person, as a business person or a member of a team, whatever, if you're not asking for feedback from your team members or people who work for you or who you work for, then you're missing out on some really good information to help you improve yourself. And I really think, asking for feedback in a way is like putting yourself in a vulnerable position because you're putting yourself out there. You could potentially get offended, maybe hurt. You have to be strong when you ask for this stuff. But what I found, and I think a lot of people on our team has found, is that when you're vulnerable, it helps build confidence
Yeah.
because it opens up an opportunity for people to really, um, you know, speak life into you. Like, hey, you're so good at this, so good at that, whatever it might be. But also provides an opportunity, like, hey, I know this is an area where you struggle with, and it's a dialogue. It's just not a one-way conversation. It's a dialogue, and so, for example, like you and I have talked, right? Hey, Fernando, what are my weaknesses?
Yeah.
Well, you're impatient and you can get emotional sometimes. Okay, cool. So let's talk about that. What can we do to protect the company from my emotional self, right? How can I protect the team from being impatient, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't want to come across that way, but um, you have to like listen to people. Like, okay, yeah, I'm impatient. I can be emotional at times. Okay, so let's take that and let's put some measures in place so I don't screw the company, and people don't get mad at me, right? So what do? I write emails, I put it in my draft, and I'm like, okay, Fernanda, can you read that before I send it off? And you're like, Chris, it sounds like you're really mad at this, right? So it's just being open, being vulnerable, and just like, accept the feedback you get from the people who work closely with you, at least. Um, I've in the past, when we first started, I asked for a 360 review from our team, anonymously. They can tell right into a form of, is Chris doing a good job? Is Chris, working according to our core values? What are some of the challenges that you see in his leadership? Things like that, where I'm like, okay, I really want this. Um, so I can see where I am not serving the team well, right? And then, of course, coaching, leadership, business coaching. It's always good to have a coach that'll give you feedback, not just pump you up. I mean, getting pumped up and getting, pats on the back are good, but it's also good to say, hey, you know what, you're kind of missing the mark on this one. So let's discuss it and let's see how we can improve, right? I work with Phil, and Phil's excellent at that. Very, very good at that. And then you get masterminds. Like I go with Pete Newbig, and Pete Newbig, he doesn't hold back. If he wants to throw a punch, he'll throw a punch, and he'll, I like him and I respect him enough to know that when he says something, it's an it's a true observation that I need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And so if Pete's telling me that, he's told me once, he goes, hey, Chris, you're acting like a victim. You need to stop. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I am, you know. So, but anyway, the feedback is extremely important. If you're not getting feedback from anyone, you're missing out on an opportunity to grow.
Exactly. And just what Chris said, be careful on who do you accept feedback from, because it's pretty common. Just everyone is going to have an opinion about you,
Right.
but you really need to be careful. Like, okay, so I know this person, like, I don't know, they don't want me to succeed or anything. So
Mhm.
maybe I'm not going to take their feedback. So yeah, just take the feedback from people that you really, really trust.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes. So let's go to the next question here. So is
Mhm.
how can leaders set achievable goals to build momentum and confidence? So leaders can set achievable goals by breaking down larger objectives into smaller, more manageable tasks. So this can help build momentum and confidence as they see progress being made on each individual task. And it's important just to set realistic deadlines and celebrate the small victories that we have along the way. So yeah, it's just sometimes as leaders, and it doesn't matter if you're not a CEO, because that happens to me too, that you just have these big goals, these big things that you want to accomplish. Is maybe you're doing some progress, but it's just really small progress, and you can just feel frustrated because you're like, I'm not finishing anything, but it's just because that's the goal that you're achieving, and you're not just breaking it down into tasks. That way
Mhm.
you can be like, okay, I finished this task and I have, I don't know, 20 tasks to get to the goal. So every task that you accomplish is going to be a little success, a little victory in your
Mhm.
life. So that's going to help you build momentum. You're going to feel more motivated, and you're going to have the confidence that you can accomplish that goal.
Yeah, and I think this is why EOS is so important, because you
Yeah.
come up with this yearly goal and then you break it up into quarters. And then within those quarters, like for us, we say, okay, quarter one, by the end of January, we want to have this done. Where are we at? So it puts deadlines on things, but it also provides you an opportunity to say, okay, we accomplished that goal. Let's celebrate whatever that
Yeah.
looks like, right? Or just a pat on the back, or, something to tell the team like, hey, we achieved these goals this month. But it's, you didn't reach that yearly goal. You don't want to wait till December to celebrate. You want to be able to celebrate these small things along the way, right? Because
Yeah.
all these small victories add up, and then the big victory at the end will just automatically come because all the small victories were already achieved. And so I think that's why EOS is so good for us, because the EOS break it down into 90 days, and then with the 90 days we do a weekly level 10 meeting, and that helps us monitor our progress. So yeah, and then being able to do that, just going back to the record keeping part, just thinking like our social media, right? We can look back at old level 10 meetings from early of last year, right? I don't think we had social media then, I'm not sure, but we can look back at June or July of 2022 and look at our numbers now, like, oh my gosh, we've done a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, the record keeping and just coming up with these goals and the small victories are important. That helps build confidence and momentum. And just another example on the personal side, when I was doing 75 hard, it's easy just to say, oh my gosh, I got 74 more days of this and it's miserable. But what I was doing, I was weighing myself every morning. Yeah, it would kind of go up and down, but it would progressively go down. And so that is just one of those small victories, right? Like I was
Yeah.
weighing myself every day, but on Mondays, I would say, okay, on Mondays, let me see how I am compared to last Monday. And I would see progress, and I would well, there's nothing I did to celebrate. I was just happy about it, right? But it's not like you can go have a drink, because you can't have a drink at 75 hard. But it was a small victory, and it's like, okay, this is working. It's worth my time. I'm enjoying this. So that was giving me confidence of, hey, you know what? I can actually do this.
Exactly. I think it's just that little satisfaction and say like I did it, So
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I think that's the good part. And it's just I don't know, we're humans at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like those small victories keep us motivated and
Yep.
we're happy, and it
Mm-hmm.
changes your day, like completely
It
changes your
does.
day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty important just to celebrate those many victories.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's go to the next one. So how can leaders learn from failure and use it as a way to build confidence? So leaders can learn from failure by analyzing what went wrong and identifying areas of improvement. So rather than dwelling on failure, leaders can view it as learning opportunities and use it to build um, resilience and problem solving skills. That word, it was hard to say. Resilience.
That's funny.
Sorry, it
You
was
did
like,
good.
yeah, it was hard, but I did it.
Small
That's a
victories,
small
right?
victory.
There you
Exactly,
go.
that's what I was going to say. A small victory for me. I say
That's
it.
that's cool. Yeah. So yeah, I would say I don't want to say I don't like the word failure, but what failure to me represents that you didn't learn or you quit. You only truly fail if you don't learn from it or if you quit from it, right?
Yeah.
It's I call it, so sometimes failures cost time or money, and I call it tuition payments, and I didn't come up with that. I learned it from someone else, but you're learning lessons, right? Okay, we tried something like, for example, remember we're doing that website, right, to try to see if we can get leads on our own
Mm.
from out in Washington, and we tried it twice, and both times were like we had to kill it, and it wasn't a failure in a sense that, like, oh my gosh, we were looking at it as loss of money, loss of time. It was more of like, all right, tuition payments, maybe that's not our thing. Maybe we don't focus on that anymore. Let's not make that mistake again, right? So so things like that, they're tuition payments. You're going to spend a little money, you're going to spend a little time on it, but the key thing is you need to learn. If you don't learn, then yeah, you truly fail. But if you learn from it, it's just part of the journey.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just we need to change that word. It's not failure, it's
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Exactly.
think that's really good. And it's just changing your mindset, because sometimes we can just get sad, we can get angry when something doesn't look as we thought, or something
Yep.
doesn't work as we thought. So it's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a learning lesson here. It's just learning something, and that's it. And that's not a failure. That's
Hmm.
an opportunity to get better.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, the next one that we have is, how can leaders seek feedback and use it to build confidence in their abilities? So leaders can seek feedback by asking team members for their thoughts and opinions, or by working with a mentor or coach. By actively seeking feedback and using it to improve, leaders can build confidence in their abilities and develop a growth mindset. So yeah, this is something like kind of related on what we saw, like how
Hmm.
can leaders identify their strengths, is just asking for feedback. But I know sometimes it's hard just to go to your, I don't know, to your boss or to your mentor and say like, hey, just can you give me some feedback, or just with your family. It can be really hard, and as we talk about, really vulnerable position. But just like as we did in training, just vulnerability is not, um, it's just a strength. It's not
Hmm.
something that you need to be ashamed or of anything.
Hmm. I agree with that. And I would say, not everyone is comfortable or maybe used to asking people for feedback,
Yeah.
So if that's anyone listening to this, I would go to someone you trust and you admire and you respect a lot, and just say, hey, do you think you could give me some feedback on, whatever it is you're doing? And I would give that person some time, like, hey, I'd like to meet with you and I want to discuss getting some feedback related to my performance at work, or how I am at home, or whatever it might be, because they're not going to expect that. And you're going to ask them that question and they're going to sit there like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about this. And you may not get the best answer yet because they're too busy thinking. So prepare them for that. I would say if you're in your work environment, ask for a 360 review, see if there's a way your employer can provide that. If not, create it somehow so it's can be anonymous, and you can hear what other people feel are your strengths and the areas you can improve. And of course, coaching. We talked about that earlier. So those are things. Like I said earlier, if you're not getting feedback, then you're missing out on opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's good for feedback. So let's
Hmm.
go to the next one and the last one. So what are some self-care strategies leaders can use to build confidence? So self-care strategies can include things like exercise, journalism, mindfulness, meditation, and taking breaks from work. So by prioritizing self-care, leaders can reduce stress and anxiety and build confidence in their ability to manage their workload and maintain a healthy work-life balance. So I think it's pretty common, just like if you're a CEO, or not a CEO, just like normal person working. It's just
Hmm.
you can be like, I'm going to work all day and I'm going to be so
Hmm.
productive and I'm going to accomplish a lot of things. And you're
Hmm.
going to see that you're going to accomplish less things. You're going to be less productive because you're just getting so overwhelmed with all the things. So if you don't exercise, if you don't do like little hobbies, like it doesn't matter, you don't need to meditate or do yoga, but if you're like, okay, so maybe if I go out just to walk like for 10-15 minutes, like for me that's a way to release the stress, well, just do it, because that's going to help you come back and be more productive, be more focused on the things that you need
Hmm.
to accomplish.
Hmm. What are
So
some of the things that you do?
So for me, I would say just reading. I think that's
Hmm.
pretty good for me. Or just like going out on the patio
Hmm.
and just like in a chair and just like close my eyes and feel the breeze. I think that's for me. It's just like
Hmm.
really old person thing, but it's just I really feel like a granny doing that, like just
Yeah.
you see me in the chair, just with my eyes closed and feeling the breeze and just breathing. I don't know, it's
uh,
pretty calming for me. And just reading also, I think that's really good.
yeah, I agree with that. I'm the same way. I read every morning and I look forward to it. Like if I don't,
Yeah.
it's hardly ever any times where I don't do my reading in the morning. Unless, let's say I got a super early morning and I have to get out of the house right away. I'll skip on the reading, or maybe I'll try to catch up later in the day. But I like doing reading first thing in the morning because it really helps my mind, right? Because I'm reading something that I'm interested in and I'm learning, or whatever, inspiration or whatever it might be. Of course, I talk about journaling, right? So journaling helps me just put my thoughts down. And a lot of times when I'm typing out my thoughts, um, something will come out, like some thought or an idea will come out as I'm typing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't, like, it was amazing. I wouldn't have come up with this idea, or I wouldn't have had this thought unless I was actually typing out what's
Yeah.
going on in my world right now, right? And so I enjoy that a lot. The mindfulness thing, and the meditation, I used to do that. I probably should bring that back in. I would think I saw a lot of benefit when I used to do it. Taking breaks from work, of course. But for me, like, I find myself feeling more confident when I'm physically fit. If I feel like I've skipped the gym too long, I don't feel like I'm in shape, whatever, it takes a couple of days of not exercising for me to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm fat. I gained
Yeah.
200 pounds overnight, or whatever it might be. When I start feeling that way, that's when my confidence starts going down a little bit. My performance goes down, and I just don't feel good. So I need to make sure that I'm doing my exercise to feel good, not just exercise, but eating right. There's a lot to it, right? So being healthy is a priority. I really feel like to be on the top of your game, you need to be physically fit. If you're way out of shape, you know, I don't think you can be at your prime. I think you need
Yeah.
to be physically fit to be at your prime. Um, so the struggles that I do have is when I go to the gym. I got a gym in my garage. I like it, but I also like to get out and be in an environment where other people are exercising. Even though I don't talk to anyone, it's still nice to be in that environment. And but if I go there while my family's at home, I feel guilty because I'm like, oh, I should be at home with the family. Or if I do it during the workday, I'm like, oh my gosh, my team's working. I should be at work too. So I've got this like constant guilt of like, okay, I should not be enjoying myself because, Linda's at home with the boys, or, Fernanda's working hard on the website right now, and I should be doing something to help her out. So that's something I gotta, just a mindset that I gotta shift, because, if I'm not taking care of myself, then I'm no good for the company or for the team.
Yeah, exactly. And I understand that, just like feeling guilty,
Hmm.
and I don't know, and it's pretty common. And I think just like being virtual 24/7, because as you know, Chris, like apparently I don't go to college anymore.
You don't go
So
to college and you don't sleep, so I don't know what you're doing.
exactly. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like being behind the computer 24/7. Like
Hmm.
it can be exhausting sometimes, because it's like I finish work, but I'm still sitting in the chair. But right
Hmm.
now I'm doing work from school, and that's it. So
Yep.
I think sometimes in the morning my eyes get so puffy that it's just I can barely open them.
Mm.
So it's just what I realized, that it helps me. And that's also self-care. It's just taking my contact lenses out, putting like some cotton pads with some
Mhm.
chamomile tea,
Mhm.
and like for 5 minutes, and that's it. I feel better. My eyes feel better, because sometimes when I'm in the computer, just like after long hours, I
Mhm.
just start feeling like the words are getting crossed. And I'm like, what's happening? It's like, yeah, I'm not saying. So let me just
Yep.
refresh my sight. So I think that's just, for me, it also works. And I think it's
Mhm.
something that we also need to think about, just the self-care on the virtual environment, because I think it's
Mm.
different also when you're in an office,
Yeah.
that, okay, so I'm going to SMR's office to ask her for something, I'm standing up and I'm going to her office, I'm talking with her, just like, I don't
Yep.
know, in person. And when you're virtual, you're just sitting down all day,
Yep.
and just
Exactly.
like, hey, SMR, just can you send me this? And that's it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that's really good. Just like, I don't know, maybe take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and just walk. That's what I do when I feel like I've been sitting like all day. It's just
Yep.
5 minutes. I walk inside my house. It's like, okay, I'm good.
Yep.
Like my back doesn't hurt. So I think
Mhm.
it's just taking those little breaks. It helps. And also just being aware on where are you working and also the environment that you're in. And I think that's really good also because like you went to an office, right? Just like to
Yep.
change the environment also, because I feel it the same that I'm 100% at my house and I'm like in the living room
Yep.
and it's just my mom's here and I hear her talking, and sometimes I'm frustrated with work or I'm frustrated with the school, and I'm like, just like nobody talk right now, I'm working and I'm focused. So
Yep.
I think it's just like that, also changing where are you working. Sometimes I work here or the studio or my bathroom, just change the
Yeah.
environment. So if
Hmm.
you always work the same, if you don't take those little things in mind, you're just going to be overburned and you're not going to enjoy working. So
Hmm.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, those are some good points. Changing the environment. I made an Instagram video. I think I did. Yeah, a
Yeah, you
couple
did.
last week. Yeah, about environment. And environment's a big deal. Like going to this office is changing my environment, so I can talk to Joni and Sean every now and then, or Brett. But Linda came over for lunch just a bit ago, so it was nice to have my wife in here in this office, and it's not in the house, right? And I feel like I'm
Yeah.
actually at work. Like, yeah, actually, I have a job here, right? But also like going to a coffee shop and working there is sometimes nice. And then my gym has got a really nice cafeteria, and it's nice to go work out, maybe sit in the jacuzzi, and then go do some work. It's I'm able to get things done, but I'm also like it's part of my self care. I'm in a
Exactly.
place where I feel relaxed, and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. Everyone's different what you like, but self care is a big deal. Now, do you still do boxing on Saturdays?
So that was the thing that one, there was too much people, and two, like my coordination was awful. So I started going to the gym
Oh,
and
okay.
I feel better. Like honestly, I feel better and
Mhm.
I've made some friends there. So it's great
Oh,
just to,
cool.
yeah, it's just to get there. And I don't know, you feel guilty because
Mhm.
sometimes they're like, so why didn't you come on Saturday? And I was like,
Mm.
oh, sorry. It's just I went to the movie theater. It's like, oh yeah, we were waiting for you. And you feel guilty, like, oh my God, they
Yeah.
were working out and I was just like at the movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's just good to have someone there to hold you accountable. But I
Exactly.
think it really works. Like it's been working, just going to the gym and also seeing the progress, like
Mhm.
each time I'm adding more weight. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, so it's just I'm getting stronger. I'm pretty happy. And also
Nice.
I've been drinking more water. That's also self-care. Like I have this 2 liter
Oh,
bottle
okay,
of
cool.
water and I try to drink like 1.5.
Oh, good.
So yeah, that's good. And I feel
Yeah.
pretty happy. My skin looks better and it's just like I feel more active. So as
Nice.
you said, it's just being healthy. It's pretty important. Just like,
Absolutely.
I don't know,
Yeah.
just taking into consideration that like before meditating or before journalism, you need to be healthy and
Yeah, I agree.
you
I
can go
agree.
from there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Well, sweet. So, if people will listen to these two podcasts, they should become a more confident version of themselves.
Exactly. It's just like you really need to hear this two podcasts. And if you don't feel like you're confident, like go back and hear them again because you
Exactly.
missed something out.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, cool. So that was a good one. That was part two. There is no part three of this one, but we'll continue on these episodes with we haven't had a guest in a while. I think maybe we should go get a guest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a few people in line. It just with the holidays and stuff, it just kind of everyone's calendar just got booked up. So including ours. So we'll get some more guests on here and then we'll have more topics to discuss. And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for hearing this episode. We hope you like it, the part
Mhm.
one and part two. And thank you, Chris, for sharing your experiences and your thoughts. It was great. It was fun. So
Cool.
yeah, thank you
Uh,
everyone and stay virtual.